I'm Robert Estrin. This is livingpianos.com. The question today is, who was Billy Joel's piano teacher? Billy Joel is an institution of American popular music, one of the great songwriters and one of the great popular piano players of the whole century. And you might wonder, well, where did he learn how to play the piano? And if you look on Wikipedia and kind of start searching, you're going to find a very interesting fact, which is my father, Morton Estrin, is listed as Billy Joel's piano teacher. This is true. Now, he actually went to Hicksville High School. That's on Long Island in the suburbs of New York City. I'm not a hick, I promise you. But we're both from the same high school, although he's a bit older than me, so we never really overlapped. And in fact, even though he studied piano in the house where I lived, I never ran into him. Of course, it wouldn't have meant anything. He wasn't famous as a kid. So people always would ask my father, what was Billy Joel like as a student? And he said, well, he was a kid. Well, you think about it, he was teaching him student-level music, sonatinas. His mother, like so many mothers back then, made him study the piano. And at the time, it wasn't the most pivotal thing in Billy Joel's life. I find it interesting that in more recent years, in the past few decades, he has been composing some substantial classical music. I don't know how much of his early training is rubbed off, or if this is in later life. Because the fact of the matter is, my father always kind of used Billy Joel, and Billy Joel kind of used my father in their bios for obvious reasons. But I'm not sure how substantial the relationship was musically way back then, because it was only as a child. And of course, Billy went a very different direction. My father was completely immersed in classical music. That was his entire world. And of course, Billy Joel went on to become one of the great songwriters, singer-songwriters of American popular music. So that's the long and short of it. I thought you'd be interested in that fact because people always ask me about that. And it's an interesting story, but unfortunately, I don't have little anecdotes and such. But the only one I can share with you is a funny story. One of the times my sister and I were visiting my father in New York, we decided to go just a couple of miles away to the house where we grew up in before we moved to another house in Hicksville. And we went to the old Levitt house in the Levittown section of Hicksville. And there was our house. We're sitting in front of it in the car looking at it and thinking, do we dare knock on the door? You know, just, I don't know if you've ever done anything like that. And I kind of convinced her, let's do it. So we knocked on the door and said, hi, you know, and we introduced ourselves and said, we used to live in this house. And before we could say one word, the woman there says, oh, did you know that Billy Joel had his piano lessons right upstairs here? I said, yes, we know that. And so she was very proud of that fact. And so that's the only anecdote I have to share about this. I wish I had more for you, but it is a fact that Billy Joel studied piano with my father, Morton Estrin. Hope you've enjoyed this. Again, I am Robert Estrin here at livingpianos.com. See you next time.